There was something special going on back in 2004 over at Visual Concepts. ESPN NFL 2K5 was arguably the greatest sports game ever. NBA 2K5 was also a great game. MLB 2K5 may not have been as good as MVP Baseball 05, but it was close. ESPN NHL 2K5 was also a fantastic game. Any sports game ending in 2K5 or 05 is going to be really good. This was the era for sports video games. It's March, so why not talk about one of the best March Madness games of all time? College Hoops 2K8 was the last College Hoops game made by 2K, and it was arguably the best ever. And EA's NCAA Basketball 10 was a solid game carried by excellent presentation, but it was the last college basketball game ever. It has been almost 14 years since we've seen a new college basketball title, which is a shame because March Madness is one of the most exciting events in all of sports, and taking a team to the Final Four is a really fun experience in a video game. While 2K5 may not be as well known as 2K8, it's still a fantastic game, and for some, it might be even better of a choice. It features one of the deepest and best franchise modes I've ever played. Very good gameplay as it used the same engine as NBA 2K5 and was developed by Visual Concepts instead of Kush Games, who developed the last title. And it featured a thrilling college atmosphere through its presentation. It was truly an all-time classic. The first thing I want to bring up when it comes to ESPN College Hoops 2K5 is the online play. Yeah, that's right, this game from 2004 not only had online capabilities, but it was arguably the smoothest, best playing online sports game ever at the time. On PS2 or Xbox, you could play ranked matches, create and join tournaments, view your stats and tendencies, or anyone else's, and more. Reviews at the time mentioned the fluidity, smoothness, and the lack of lag with online play. Obviously, the server for this game is no longer up, but back in 2004, that was something that helped the game gain such a strong following. Gameplay itself, online or offline, was exceptional. This was no skin of NBA 2K5, although it used the same engine. Normally, college games use the engine of the previous year's pro title to save costs, but that wasn't the case for College Hoops 2K5. You'll face more zone defenses that can be attacked by passing and shooting around the perimeter, and you'll notice a ton of varied scripted offensive plays you can map to the D-pad, as well as many different defensive plays such as traps and presses, in every defensive scheme you could think of. Player movement was all about weight and momentum, and if you've been following my channel for a while, you know that sports games that focus on those two things usually turn out pretty well. You couldn't change direction on a dime like you could in the more arcadey EA basketball games, and performing ISO moves like crossovers, spin moves, stepbacks, and more were slower and difficult to master but rewarding to achieve. The gameplay was very skill-based, which was perfect for an early online sports game. AI teammates were actually pretty smart, as they would mix up their pass type, their shot type, and AI defense will actually adjust based on your play by full court trapping your star player when he's firing on all cylinders, for example. Rare at the time, free throws were actually simple in 2K5. Instead of some elaborate trigger situation, you simply hold the shoot button and let go at the top of the release, just like in modern NBA 2K games. This was the first game in the College Hoops series to simplify free throw controls, and it made the game a lot more accessible. It's always frustrating when playing an older basketball game that has confusing free throw controls. At the time, reviews of 2K5 criticized the gameplay for having too wide of a gap between star players and regular players, but I actually find that to be a positive. The best players in the country are going to be unstoppable, that's just how it works. In most sports video games, even modern ones, fail to show just how much better superstar athletes are over average ones. This was a deep game as well, which you'd probably expect considering this is a sports game from 2004. Franchise mode was now called Legacy mode, and it received a ton of changes. You can now start a career in the mode, where you take a coaching position at a small school, hire a staff with limited resources, and start from the bottom, trying to win upsets to get your program on the map to attract talent. It's a really fun and engaging career mode with a good amount of challenge, especially for just playing the CPU. You can also start Legacy mode without any storyline, where you can pick any school and do whatever you want. By the way, this game has over 300 schools to choose from. Throughout the year, you monitor and manage your players' training, practices, scouting, prospects, and more. You play a full schedule against teams both in and not in your conference, as well as the full postseason tournament. You have to choose how to best use your time, as time you spend on scouting won't be available for practicing, which adds a good bit of strategy. This is a great manager mode for anyone who wants to experience what it's like running a college basketball program while also playing the games yourself, or you could watch them in coach mode. The simulation engine in the game is very accurate and reliable, so if you don't want to bother playing the games, you don't need to worry about simulations being random. The results make sense, which should be a given in a sports game, but modern titles have shown us otherwise. What makes College Hoops 2K5 a truly unique game, however, is its presentation. Player models are very nice looking for the time, the arenas are meticulously detailed, and as I mentioned before, there are over 300 schools in this game. Teams have accurate cheerleaders, mascots, and the overall atmosphere is much louder and more exciting than it is in NBA 2K5. College basketball is an exciting sport, and this game pushes that excitement throughout every mode. The menus are all ESPN themed, as is the broadcast presentation. Most schools will have their fight songs played in game, and the commentary from Mike Patrick and Jay Billis is still great today in 2023. Billis gives a ton of cool insight as the color guy, and I find myself stopping and listening to what he has to say regularly.
Blue Devils have a nice lead here to start the second half, Jay. They were leading in the first half as well, of course. What's their recipe for success tonight?
Mike, the first 5 minutes of the second half is a critical point for this team. They've got the lead because they've shot the ball very well. I think they need to establish themselves on the defensive end.
In general, the crowds are wild, have different paint and outfits, and show more spirit than you would see in an NBA game. The crowds are all 3D rendered, they get on their feet, they chant, they get real loud when they are supposed to, and when the home team gets upset, they get real quiet. It feels really authentic for a video game. Within Legacy mode, you can pull up an ESPN news report of your games with unique headlines, stats, and comments that are surprisingly detailed. You can also view highlights after the game, and games you simmed and didn't even play will also have one highlight viewable. Somewhat similar to how ESPN NFL 2K5 showed highlights of games you never played. This was 2K at their peak, fighting against tough competition and dropping non-stop fire. If you're looking for a sports game to lose yourself in, a new universe where you run a college basketball team and get to experience the fun, excitement, the disappointment, and the surprise that comes with March Madness, look no further. You probably won't recognize too many players in this game, making it a real challenge to build a school. Of course, this game has a dedicated online community still updating the rosters to this day, assuming you want to play with the current teams in the tournament right now. Between an insanely deep Legacy mode, authentic presentation, and very good and deep gameplay with a skill gap, this is one of the best made sports games of all time, and it truly was an all-time classic. Thanks for watching.